In the northeastern area of the Commonwealth, located to the south of Breakheart Banks and east of Malden Center, we find Listening Post Bravo, which on the surface appears to consist of nothing more than an old military bunker built into a hill. As we approach the entrance, we are immediately faced with 2 laser turrets mounted on top of the bunker, as well as a hostile Protectron firing at us from the inside.
Hostile target identified.
With the area cleared, or seemingly cleared anyway, we head inside. In the north corner of the room, we find a duffel bag with a rifle and some ammunition inside, as well as the skeletal remains of a United States soldier who likely met his end on the day the bombs dropped. In the west corner of the room, we find another shelf locked inside of a security cage. After picking the advanced lock, we are able to loot 3 plasma cartridges, some ammunition, a hunting rifle, and a 10mm pistol inside of a tool case. On the desk, we find nothing of interest other than some purified water and a few empty folders, and inside of the file cabinet next to it, a fuse and a wrench. With the room completely looted, the only thing left to do is examine the elevator located in the back of the room. After quickly hacking a master level terminal, we're able to step inside the elevator and make our long descent into the depths of Listening Post Bravo.
Going down.
Stepping out into the underground bunker, we see a number of stacked boxes and pre-war consoles lining the walls. There's a couple of shelves with some miscellaneous objects and some RadAway, and in between we find a wooden crate filled with Rad-X, a tin can, and a toy car. Is this a sign that a child was once in the bunker? Or did one of the soldiers take it with him as sort of a sentimental object to remember his young one by? In the east corner of the room we find a weapons workbench as well as an armor workbench, and lying on the ground among the dust and debris are 2 Protectrons, which is strange. Looking through a window into another room, we see a military trunk, but we can't get to it because the nearby doorway is blocked with debris. On one of the pre-war consoles, we find some great mentats, and sitting on the desk next to a terminal, we find a cigar box. Looks like whoever was stationed inside of Listening Post Bravo enjoyed the simple things in life. Boy, I love a good cigar. We'll return to the terminal in a moment, but first we have to explore what's beyond this large hole in the wall. But before we can even step inside, we're charged by a raging Yao Guai. Thankfully, the beast is no match for our Wazer rifle and its unlimited ammo capacity. Turning around, we find ourselves in what appears to be a dark, naturally made cave of sorts, with a pool of dirty water collecting in the center. There is a faint light flooding into the cave from the other side, and upon closer inspection, we realize that it's a pathway to the room with the military trunk we saw earlier. We'll explore that room in a moment, but first, we have to explore this mysterious cave. There are a number of items inside of the pool of water, ranging from a barrel of nuclear waste to a folder to what appears to be a clipboard. Buried in the mud that surrounds the pool are a number of skeletons, none of which are fully intact. There are skulls, rib cages, limbs, and even the skull of a Brahmin. Looks like the Yao Guai that we took out earlier had quite the feast. The only question is, where did it come from? The only way in and out of the bunker is by way of the elevator, and unless a pre-war soldier took the Yao Guai into the depths of Listening Post Bravo as a pet, which is extremely unlikely, something else must be going on here. Stepping into the second room, we find an alarm clock sitting on top of some file cabinets, some duct tape and turpentine resting on a shelf, and of course, the trunk that we saw earlier, which contains some caps, ammunition, a shotgun, and some combat armor. On a wooden crate next to the trunk is a military-grade circuit board, and on a nearby console, some more great mentats, and laying on the floor next to the desk is a skeleton. Was this a soldier that was stationed at Listening Post Bravo? For more information, we can head back into the first room and check out the terminal, on which there are a total of 5 monitoring reports written by Sergeant J.P. Renkse. Report number 10 reads, Captain Rutledge ordered me to take over long-range monitoring today. That means 4 weeks stuck in this bunker with only military rations, old magazines, and a transistor radio to keep me company. However, I'll try to make the best of it by doing my job and monitoring the airwaves for any suspicious transmissions. Maybe next month I'll get a more interesting assignment, but for now, it's time to kiss the light of day goodbye for a month. Little did the sergeant know that he would be spending a lot longer inside of Listening Post Bravo than 1 month. We go back to the terminal's main page and select report number 14, which reads, Had a strange incident today. I was monitoring the low band frequencies, the stuff normally used by outdated equipment, when I came across a very strange repeating message. It was in English, but it was very difficult to make out due to all the static. It stopped broadcasting after about an hour, but I made out a few phrases. Internal void. Dreams are getting darker. And blood runs so still. The only other thing I picked up was what I assumed to be a call sign. DEK. I'm going to send these phrases over to translation in Washington as soon as possible. This is actually a reference to the Swedish heavy metal band Katatonia and their song Dead Letters, which is on their album Dead End Kings. That explains the letters DEK that Sergeant Renkse heard coming across the low band frequency. Moving on to report number 16, Sergeant Renkse's entry reads, I haven't heard a thing from Washington yet, so I assume they haven't come up with any answers. While I was waiting, I decided to continue monitoring that same frequency around the clock. I tuned in, but I haven't heard a thing in 4 days. I'm getting awfully anxious to hear something new, or for the translation guys to tell me what the heck I had heard, but for now, I'll just have to wait. Listening Post Bravo Monitoring Report 20 reads, I woke up today to a banging noise on the elevator door, like someone was trying to get in. I looked at the readout and it said that the elevator had been in its lockdown position since I got here. So that doesn't make any sense. I decided to activate the bunker's defense systems as a precaution and broke out the emergency rifle we keep locked up down here. I have to admit, a cold chill was running down my spine. The banging continued for almost an hour straight, and then it stopped. I don't know why, but I have the strange feeling that this is somehow related to the mysterious broadcast I intercepted. So based on report number 20, we are left with 2 possible explanations. Either the banging that the sergeant heard on the elevator doors was some type of supernatural entity, or he was starting to lose his mind after being in isolation for so long. It couldn't have possibly been another United States soldier, because we know that the elevator was locked. Let's keep reading these logs. Maybe they will provide us with more information. The final entry, report number 25, reads, It's been 5 days since the banging on the elevator, and Washington finally broke radio silence to tell me that the holotape recording they received was blank. When I listened to my local playback, I discovered that they were right. My tape had nothing on it. When I mentioned the noises I heard, they told me it was possible I was experiencing auditory hallucinations from being isolated for so long. They said to hang tight and they'd send someone out to relieve me. It's possible that this isolation did something to my mind. Maybe I wanted to find a mystery to solve to occupy the time so badly, my imagination decided to take over. Whatever it was, I hope this doesn't go down on my permanent record. So what exactly happened? How does one explain the banging on the elevator door and the strange words coming across the radio? I believe that there is one simple explanation for all of this, and that is that after spending weeks in isolation inside of Listening Post Bravo, the sergeant started to lose his mind. The words coming across the radio only existed inside of his head, which is why the holotape was blank, and the banging on the elevator door never happened. As for the skeleton that we found upstairs, it's possible that this was the soldier that was sent to relieve the sergeant, but the bombs dropped just before he had a chance to unlock the elevator and make his descent. In that case, the sergeant would have been trapped deep underground inside of the bunker, while the world above him was completely destroyed. So how did Sergeant Renkse die? Did he just run out of food and perish from starvation? Or did he meet his doom some other way? Again, there are two possible explanations. Either the sergeant did starve to death while trapped in the bunker, or the Yao Guai broke through the bunker walls and got the best of him, as well as the two Protectrons we saw lying dead on the floor. But there's still one more question that we need to answer. How did the Yao Guai end up down here in the first place? Perhaps at one point before the bombs dropped, there was a hidden escape route that led back outside. It's possible that the Yao Guai, which was a normal bear before the radiation caused it to mutate, found its way into this escape route and used it as its home. This would explain why we find the remains of humans and even creatures from the outside world so deep underground. It dragged them down here like many other predators do in the animal kingdom. However, when it was in its cave gnawing on the ribcage of an unlucky fellow, the bombs dropped and the creature's pathway leading back outside was blocked off. Thus, it found itself trapped between rock and fallen debris and the underground walls of Listening Post Bravo. With its food supply running low, the Yao Guai was eventually left with no choice but to break through the bunker walls, which were likely weakened when the bombs dropped, and eat its last meal for over 2 centuries. Sergeant J.P. Renkse. The Protectrons attempted to save his life, but they were no match for a vicious, mutated bear looking for a source of food. Of course, all of this is just a theory, and I'd be interested to know what your own thoughts are in the comments. I decided to take the elevator back up and explore the grounds surrounding Listening Post Bravo to see if there were any nearby piles of rock or rubble that may have been the secret entrance into Listening Post Bravo. Unfortunately, all that I found were some rather aggressive mole rats that I had to quickly take care of. I have to admit, I jumped a little bit when those things crawled up from the ground. So that's my analysis on Listening Post Bravo. I fully understand that this theory may very well be off base, but that's part of what makes a Fallout game so interesting and enjoyable. Bethesda leaves you to figure out how the story went, rather than just telling it to you. It is strange how we weren't able to find some kind of a secondary passageway leading into Listening Post Bravo, and it's even more strange how after over 200 years without food or water, a creature still lived on inside of the bunker. How this is possible is beyond me. I'd love to know what you think, folks. Is there a secret entrance into Listening Post Bravo that this bear used as a cave before the bombs dropped? Was the sergeant really hearing banging against the elevator and strange words coming across the radio? Or had he simply gone insane? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, I'd appreciate it if you clicked on that thumbs up icon to show your support, or better yet, subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date on all of my latest content. I post new videos on Fallout every single Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen, so be sure to check back next week for more Fallout lore, commentary, and analysis. Until then, have a great week, and I'll see you next time.